find love, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's the founder and CEO of Spandau House, none other than Mr. Ian Spandau. Welcome, Mr. Ian, on Abstract Essay. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Certainly. Nice to be with you again, Daniel. My name is Ian Spandau. I'm a lifelong technology professional who changed my world to rescuing dogs. And my wife and I began a dog rescue 5 years ago from our home, which we call Spandau House Dog Rescue. And we've rescued a little over 250 dogs in that time.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for rescuing all the dogs, Mr. Ian. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about being you as the head of a nonprofit dog rescue and sanctuary. So, tell us, what is the pivotal moment or the story that transformed the idea of the rescue from a dream into a necessity, compelling you take on this massive responsibility?
Well, my wife and I don't have any children, and we've been fostering dogs for about 15 years with different volunteer agencies. And after a few years, we realized that there wasn't really a place for some of the dogs that couldn't find a home, that wouldn't be suitable to be adopted. So we purchased a 9-acre property in the countryside in Northern California, which is we've converted into a large dog park, if you like, um,
Hmm.
where we take in dogs that have, trauma or difficulty, or they've been abused, or they've been abandoned, and we integrate them into a home so that they're ready for adoption in an average normal home. So sometimes it takes a few weeks or months, but sometimes it takes a year or 2 years. But we have the space and the time to dedicate to these animals. So we foster them until such time as we can find the ideal home.
Beyond the fundamental goals of saving dogs, what is the specific unique mission of your sanctuary? Is it focused on particular breed dogs and special needs, or a specific type of rehabilitation?
No, we don't specify. We take any kind of breed. We do get a lot of pit bulls and a lot of German shepherds because they tend to be very popular dogs here in America, and they're often abandoned. And after the pandemic, it was a real challenge because a lot of people adopted dogs during the pandemic when they were home. But
Yes.
then when they went back to work, they couldn't spend the time with the dogs, and the dogs misbehaved or they escaped or something like that. So, our mission really is just to help any dog that has been abandoned or abused. Doesn't really matter what breed they are or how old they are. And if we can't rehabilitate them, then we provide a sanctuary environment for them as well, so they can live out their years here on our property.
Interesting, Mr. Ian. And if you had to describe the philosophy or soul of your rescue in just 3 words, what would they be and why?
Well, compassion is the first one. Just like humans, you mentioned it earlier on, Daniel, just like humans, dogs are pack animals. They need to have friends, they need to have family, they need to have a secure environment. So, compassion is the first word I would use. The second one is stability. So, most of the dogs that we have had have gone hungry for a long time, or they've had no medicine, or they've had no regular place to sleep at night. So we offer them stability, right? We have comfortable dog houses and dog beds, and they sleep in our bedroom at night, and they get used to a stable environment. And then if I have to think about the third one, it's really patience, because most of the dogs that come in here have got difficulties and problems. And we understand now that patience is a very important part of rehabilitation. So we have to give them the space and the time so that they can adjust and relax and then become confident and then learn how to be a normal dog.
Confident indeed. And Mr. Ian, as the head of the organizations, what does a typical day actually look like for you? I imagine it's far cry from just playing with puppies all day.
Yeah, you're dead right. So a typical day starts early. You know, dogs wake up early.
Yes.
6:30, 7 a.m. I take them out for their first walk, and I let them out into the. We have particular areas for the dogs to exercise, so I'll let them out in the morning, and I'll exercise them and walk them. Typically by mid morning, then there's going to be a training session where we're going to start teaching them, the commands that people need when they adopt a dog, sit and stay and down and all that kind of stuff. They get 2 meals a day. They get a meal mid morning and they get a meal late afternoon. And that can take a little while when you're feeding 10 or 12 dogs. Um, and then, yes, there is a lot of playtime as well, right? So there's tennis balls and frisbees and the different things that dogs like to play with. We have to give them joy in their day. So, I spend probably an hour and a half, 2 hours each day just walking and playing with them.
A bunch of them for sure. And how do how do you do your team navigate the heartbreak of compassion fatigue and burnout when you are constantly faced with cases of neglect and suffering?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, it's because when things are hard in life, it doesn't mean that they're bad in life. We understand that some days are going to be a lot harder than others. I was put in the hospital for 10 days last year when one of the dogs that we rescued attacked me, and
Mm,
uh, and pretty badly injured my left arm. But the reward is that we get emails and postcards and Christmas cards from people who have adopted dogs from us, and they send us these pictures and these videos of these happy dogs living a great life. So there's two types of income, Daniel. There's financial income, the money that we earn, and then there's spiritual income. And spiritual income is where we go to bed feeling good at night and we wake up in the morning optimistic, right? uh,
yes.
Feeling that there's good in the world is another kind of an income.
There is a good in the world, and that is priceless
Mhm.
for sure. And Mr. Ian, with so many dogs in need, how do you make the impossible decision of how to save when you have a limited space and resources?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest parts of it. I mean, each and every day, and I really do mean every single day, we will get a message from somebody who either has not got the ability to care for their dog anymore, or maybe they got evicted, or maybe an elderly person has passed away and there's a dog that was their loyal friend, and now their owner or their human has passed away. So each and every day we get those emails, and like you say, we can't take them all, but we choose them based on the dogs that we feel can easily be rehabilitated and that can live out a good life. It is very difficult. You're asking the right question. Like, having to say no to people a lot is is,
Yes.
is probably the hardest part of what we do.
The dogs and the transformations. Could you share a story of a particular dog whose journey of healing and transformation at your sanctuary perfectly encapsulates why you do this work?
Yeah. So we got an email a couple of years back from a lady who had seen a dog in Azerbaijan who had been tortured and abused and tied to a tree for her whole life. Her name was Lola. And we worked with an international agency, and we had Lola shipped from Azerbaijan to New York to Los Angeles. I drove down to Los Angeles from where we live. It's about a 10-hour drive. And I picked her up. And she came and she was with us for just a year and 1 month, like a 1 year and 1 month. And we thought that maybe she would live her life here because we didn't know that we would ever find, the perfect home for her. But as it turned out, we did find the perfect home for her. There was a farmer who lived, not that far away from us, and she wanted another livestock guardian dog. This dog is an Anatolian Shepherd, which is, naturally a sheepdog, a dog that wants to care for goats and animals. Anyway, Big Lola now has been at that farm for a little over a year. She's the happiest dog in the world. She loves her sheep and her goats, and she spends all day long guarding them. And at night, she chases away the coyotes and the dangers. And she was in such bad shape when we got her. She was skinny. She had wounds all over her. Bad people had poured acid on her face, so she had a lot of scars on her face. But a year later, all her hair grew out. She's a beautiful, beautiful dog now. You can see her on our YouTube channel or on our TikTok channel. You can see lots of videos and pictures of her. So that was really an example of a dog that was almost gone, like broken. Their spirit was broken. They had only been tortured their whole life. And then they found out that there was a world with humans where they would be fed all the time and they would get washed and brushed and cared for and played with. And she just completely turned around to being a totally different dog.
What is the most common misconception people have about rescue dogs, especially those that have come from severe trauma or have been at a sanctuary for a long time, Mr. Ian?
Well, it varies really. There's no one thing. For example, pit bull terriers. Pit bulls are the most loving and loyal dogs almost you can imagine, but they have a really bad reputation because bad people tend to fight them. And the only reason pit bulls fight is because they will do anything for their human. They will do anything you ask them. They're so loyal, they're so loving that even if what you ask them to do is a terrible thing, they'll do it because they want to please you.
Yes.
So people have this misconception that pit bulls are, vicious or they're dangerous or something like that. We've had many, many pit bull terriers. In fact, probably half of the dogs we've ever rescued have either been pit bulls or, some kind of crossbreed with a pit bull. And they end up being the best dogs. They're the best dogs. They love humans. They love children. They even love our cats. We have pit bulls that will lie around and groom our cats and lick their ears and, care for the cats. So it varies, Another one is that some people think that, certain types of dogs, if they've had a bad background, they're going to continue to be bad. And actually, that's very seldom the case with dogs. Dogs live in the moment, right? If the moment that they're in is a good, positive moment, they're happy. They don't
Yes.
they don't dwell on what happened last year or 2 years ago. They very quickly recover into a new way of being. We humans are a little different, right? We hold on to things from the past,
Yes.
but most dogs don't. If you provide them with a safe and a happy and a comfortable environment, they don't even worry about what happened in the past.
They let it go fast.
Yeah.
Oh, like children's. So tell us about a dog that was considered unadoptable by others. What unique approach did your sanctuary take to help that dog learn to trust and eventually find a home?
Well, the funny thing is, it really isn't as difficult as people think it is. I can think of a dog called Oliver. He was going to be put down because the shelter that he was in said he was unadoptable, right? Everybody who went near him at the shelter, he would growl and, he wasn't happy. But what it turned out really was the case was that it was just that the shelter, the dog pound he was in, was making him unhappy. So I took Oliver home, and on the very first night, the next day he was scheduled to go to sleep, right? On the very first night, he jumped into my lap and on the sofa and just cuddled me and rolled over on his back and wanted to have his belly scratched. And he was adopted about 2 or 3 weeks later, and the person who adopted him couldn't believe that ever anybody had said this dog is unadoptable, because he is the friendliest, nicest, sweetest dog ever. But the environment that he was in, these dog shelters, they're not nice places, right? They're concrete
Hmm.
cells. They've got a lot of other dogs there that are crying and barking and are scared. So, they smell the fear in these places. But as soon as you bring them into a warm, loving home where there's other happy dogs who are just lying around sleeping, or, doing normal dog things, they almost immediately change. And Oliver, this particular dog I'm talking about, he changed in one day. Like didn't even take a day. As soon as I had some treats for him and some belly scratches, and he saw the other dogs who were relaxed and happy and just lying around being dogs. Almost immediately, he recovered.
Mr. Ian, as the Spandau House founder and CEO, what are your short term and long term goals?
Our long-term goals are to rescue 1,000 dogs. We're at 257 right now. And even though,
Wow.
in America last year, 350,000 dogs were put to sleep. That's an incredible number, right? So we know that we can't save them all, but we have personal goals that are just about rescuing 1,000 dogs, and if we can get to more than 1,000, that's even better. We've been doing it for 5 years, and we're a quarter of the way through. So if I live long enough, we should get to 1,000. Like
Yes.
we are not high volume. We are high care. So we take the dogs that other rescues don't really want, or can't take.
Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. Ian, and looking forward for more and more dogs to be rescued.
Mhm.
And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, there's very few people in this world, Daniel, that get to save a life, right? If you get to save a human life, that's an extraordinary thing. Obviously, doctors and certain emergency type people, maybe police, maybe they get to save a life sometimes in their career, but it's not typical. But anybody can save a dog's life. Anybody. Like in every town, in every city, in every country in the world, there's a local dog rescue. And every one of those towns and cities has a dog rescue where there's going to be a dog that's going to go to sleep tomorrow. And you and I and any other human have the ability to save a dog's life. And I can personally tell you that it's the best feeling in the world. You know, the best feeling in the world is to save a life.
Yes,
And
it's priceless.
right, so that's my message to everyone. If you have one dog, it's the same amount of work to open the door for two dogs as it is for one dog, right? Like
Yes.
it's the same amount of work to walk one dog as it is to walk two dogs. So I encourage people who are already dog owners, like, have a second dog or maybe even a third dog. They keep each other company, and they get the interaction that they need, and it less work for you. If you have one dog, that dog is probably going to be demanding, right? It's going to want walk and attention, it's going to want things. But if you get a second dog, well, then they have company for each other.
Yes, definitely need a company like people. The operations and the community, Mr. Ian. Fundraising is the lifeblood of any nonprofit. Beyond donations, what is the most creative or effective way you found to generate sustainable support for your rescue?
Well, the truth is that we are 90% self-funded. So my wife and I both work full time, and we don't rely on donations, although they're extremely helpful. Some people donate food and supplies. That's very helpful to us. Every time a dog gets adopted, we don't charge any adoption fee. We just ask people to make a donation if they can afford to do so. So it's not something that's really that we could fund if we weren't both professionals working full time.
Yes, definitely. And What does the ideal volunteer look like for your organizations, and what are the most critical roles they feel that keep Sanctuary running?
So mostly just dog lovers, you know. We live in a rural area, so there's not very many people around here. So we don't have very many volunteers. But when we have needed it, you know, some of our neighbors or some of our local people will come by and spend time socializing with the dogs, meeting the dogs, just making them understand that you know humans are good and that they don't need to be frightened of all humans. Most of them have had bad experiences with humans. So the quicker you can change that experience, you know, the quicker you can show them that there are people who love dogs and care for them, the quicker they recover. But from a volunteer point of view, really, we don't rely on much. It's my wife and I, Amy and I, we do you know most of the work with the dogs.
Well, good luck to your advocacy, Mr. Ian. And for you personally, what has been the most unexpected lesson that the dogs have taught you about resilience, love, or leadership?
That's a good question. Dogs are pack animals, and pack animals need a strong leader. And I guess that's been a good lesson for me, you know, is that there needs to be an alpha in the pack that, if you like, sets the tone and, you know, creates the environment for the rest of the dogs. So it's been really interesting for me to see the different alphas moving through the pack. Originally, it was our dog Harry. He was one of our very first fosters, and he was the alpha for many years. Then we got a German Shepherd called Chief, and he took over like almost like you know he got promoted to the top dog position, and he's a very sweet and loving and caring dog. So he became you know the focus for the other dogs. So it's been a learning for me about leadership, you know, about strong leadership. Like you have to be fair, but you also have to be compassionate. So, you
Mm.
know, I find the same thing in business, right? Like the best business leaders are compassionate and fair, but they're also, you know, very well directed. Like they have clear goals, they have clear targets, they tell everybody else or they share with everybody else what those goals are. And dogs have the ability to do that as well.
Dogs for sure. And Mr. Ian, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in first season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review Music 101 and fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Let's listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Ian, as we look to the future, what is the boldest, biggest dream you have for this sanctuary? What is the legacy you hope to build?
Well, I just hope that, you know, after I'm gone, you know, and we're all gone, Daniel, that there will be lots of families who have experienced the love of a dog, and in particular, the love of a rescue dog, because I believe the rescue dogs are even more loyal to their new owners because, you know, they came from a bad situation. It's like foster children, right? Like if they came from an unstable situation and then they become adopted by a family, it frequently changes their lives. So, you know, I just hope that there's a lot of people after we do what we do that will continue to champion the cause of dogs that have been neglected or abused or abandoned.
Indeed, Mr. Ian Spandau, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy or any projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, I just encourage you to go to either YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook and look up Spandau House Dog Rescue and hopefully hit a like button or a share button or write a comment.
Yes. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Ian Spandau because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come, more and more dogs to be rescued to come. So, Mr. Ian, thank you so much for your time.
Keep doing what you do, Daniel. Good job.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ian, and likewise, Marty, come, people. See you soon.